celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life with Sterling Fox on AM 650.
Welcome back. On this edition of Boomer Life here on AM 650, we're talking about retirement living, and we have the experts from Revera Retirement Living in studio with us. Lydia Miller is Regional Director of Sales for BC for Revera, and Scott Johnson is the new Executive Director at Revera's Crofton Manor in Vancouver. Also a real treat to have Susan Lilholt in studio. Susan's mother-in-law lives at Scott's facility, Crofton Manor. Now, what level of care? This is all quite new. Your mother-in-law was living in a Revera community in Toronto for a couple of years, and then she's a Vancouver girl and wanted to come home. Your husband got a great job in Vancouver, and he wanted to come home, so that's all working out nicely. So you decided when you began to investigate a new home for your mother-in-law, you were happy with Revera and the way they approach the whole business, that you decided to stay with Revera exclusively when you got out to Vancouver. So then you just needed to find the right community that worked for you, and Crofton Manor worked out.
So actually, Susan, if you don't mind if I jump in, just
Sure.
One of my concerns, I in my title it says I'm Director of Sales, but we also have to be careful that we're not overwhelming and that we're not being pushy, that we're not, feeling like we're hounding people.
Yes.
Because I heard a story, and I've heard this more than once, but most recently, just before the weekend started, where this one lady, a daughter, was concerned for her parents, so she made an inquiry at one of my communities, and all she would give was a first name. Refused to give any other information, and she shared the story because she was hounded by the last place where she shared too much information. And luckily it wasn't a Revera community, but it was a competitor. And this is a concern. Like, did you feel overwhelmed, or did we ever overstep and ask too many questions? Or how did that process go for you? Did we make enough contact, not enough, too much?
No, in fact, I would say we've never had that kind of experience at all, but we are, I guess, very actively involved in mom's care and well-being, and so we've been asking a lot of questions of Revera to the point where we were worried that we were kind of taking up a lot of staff time, but I would say the staff were more than accommodating and very helpful, and always showing consideration for our mom and putting her at the center of it always, which to us was really revealing in terms of where the priorities lie for Revera. And I really appreciated that, because we are all concerned about wanting to do the best for mom and
do the right thing.
And the staff member in particular that I'm thinking of was so helpful, because coming to a new province, we had a lot of questions about the healthcare system here, how it works. We had to find everything from a dentist to a doctor, and we had help. We asked about that, and there were people who could be referred to us through Revera, and we were really grateful for that. And also questions about trying to make it work financially and trying to figure out, well, how long does mom, how long should we, plan for?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so that's always a big question. So Revera was very helpful in that respect, and the staff was just fantastic and went above and beyond the call in areas that we really had no idea about.
So and we've experienced that too, where we do have over 50 years of experience in the business, and many of our lifestyle consultants, such as Veronica. Veronica has been with our site for over 17 years, and she's worked her way up, and so now she has seen a lot, and she can help with a lot. She's developed a great base of education to speak to and challenges that she can walk you through.
And it really showed. I mean, I knew right away that she had a great deal of experience, and I really came to trust Veronica. She was fabulous in working with her. And she started by working with my sister-in-law, who was in Toronto, and on the phone with her and by email. And it just continued when my sister-in-law said, I've met a really wonderful lady that you're going to want to talk to, and so when we looked her up and met with her, she was fantastic, and.
So I want to make sure that we're there for you, but we're not in your face.
Well, yeah, but,
Not at all.
No, it's a fair concern. Of course, as director of sales and marketing, you ought to be concerned about things like that. And if competitors in this industry, and it's a growing business in Canada, if they're being overly aggressive in their sales techniques, it's very off-putting. And it really is a fly in the ointment, Susan, for someone like you, just trying to do the right thing by Mom and get as much good information as possible. You don't need robocalls or interruptions from people who are trying to hard sell you stuff. So clearly it hasn't happened in your case,
Not in
but
our
you
case.
can see how it would put somebody off.
Oh, absolutely. That would be totally annoying.
But but how difficult, Scott, is it for people like you and Lydia when you are trying to consult with siblings of seniors, baby boomers like Susan and her siblings, and they won't give you personal information because they've had a negative experience? It makes it very tough for you to follow up, to have another conversation with someone who's going, well, I prefer I don't give you my phone number right now because I don't want any uninvited phone calls. Does that happen often?
I don't think it happens too often, but there is a level of trust that has to be established.
You think so?
Yeah, and certainly your experience with Veronica, who I've only known her for 2 months, but it's been a wonderful 2 months experience, and I see exactly what you say in regards to where she's at. She's able to develop that trust. She has all of those levels of experience and understanding, and she really is able to handle it very, very effectively. I'm certainly very pleased to hear your experience as well.
Well, Sterling, let me give you another example too, where when we moved our mom to Vancouver and to the Rivera community here, we were a little worried and concerned about the fact that she had developed, the signs of dementia, which is quite common today in aging people.
May I ask how old she is?
She's 85.
Okay.
And she was showing signs of stress and not doing her laundry and also not preparing her breakfast for herself in her independent living suite in Toronto. It's starting to see that. And my sister-in-law was having to jump in more and more. And so we had to come to a decision about whether she should go for a little bit more care to the assisted care side in Vancouver when we moved, or whether she could stay on the independent care side and get a little bit more assistance from the family. And Rivera was great at that, and Veronica was particularly helpful because of her experience, long experience in the business, and knowing seniors and the levels of care that are needed, and seeing the levels of stress with seniors. So she said, in our experience, it would be wiser to move your mom to the assisted care side because...
Okay. I was about to ask you what was the remedy, and so that was it.
Because patients or customers and residents with the signs of dementia are highly stressed if they have to move twice.
Right.
And so the nurses, and Veronica, together have been really helpful in helping us make that decision. And I think it was the best decision, because we've noticed now that it does take a while to settle into new surroundings, and we've noticed that Mom is starting to pick up the routines, and she's looking a little happier. As I said, she's bantering with the recreation director. She's making new friends in the dining room, because I've kind of stood back and observed when we've been there, and we've been visiting fairly frequently in the first few weeks here to make sure she's settling in.
Of course, yeah.
And we just kind of like to sort of stand back and observe her interacting with the other residents. And I'm happy to see that she seems to be making friends and joined the gardening club and is getting involved in movie night and so on and so forth. So those are all good signs for us.
But you were able to make, because in Toronto at the Rivera residence that she lived in there, she was in independent living.
Yes.
And you were recognizing this is probably not going to end well if we insist on that pattern to continue. So you knew that an adjustment was likely.
Yes.
And so Okay, but that's fine. You recognize that there would, but what does that mean, and how does that get accomplished? And you were able to sit down with Scott's people and work it all out and come to the solution that was best for, guess who? Mom, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And we're all concerned because we want the best for her, and we want her to enjoy her final golden years in a way that she should be able to. And
She loves mealtime.
Mm-hmm.
I bumped into them coming back from the beach with Mom a couple of weeks ago, a couple of Fridays, and it's like, oh, we got to hurry. We got to get Mom back in the dining room for dinner. She can't wait to have dinner.
Well,
That's right.
nothing wrong with enjoying the food now. Is
No, the food's wonderful, and we enjoyed a meal or two with her in the dining room recently, and I must say the food is wonderful. So, and that seems to be consistent across Rivera.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that. Our subject here on Boomer Life today here on AM 650 is retirement living with Rivera Retirement Living, and Lydia Miller and Scott Johnson are with us, along with Susan Lilholt, whose mother-in-law is at Crofton Manor, a Rivera property here in Vancouver. Lots more ahead. Stay with us. We're back with more on Boomer Life.
It's all about the baby boomer lifestyle. Boomer Life on AM 650.